You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. I am your host, Phoenix, and welcome to tonight's broadcast. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. This is Phoenix. I hope you guys are doing well. We have a special program this evening. I'm being joined by Megaphone Man, NeSe. But where are they? Where art thou? Yeah, I had NeSe on the line here just a moment ago, and he is gone. I don't know what happened. Anyway, it is a live program. This is Thursday, February 28th. Excuse me, September 28th. Oh, man, I'm all over the board. I said February 28th. How crazy. How crazy is that? It's like a time warp. I think we're caught in some type of time loop. Hey, NeSe, brother, how's it going?
Thank you, and I apologize. I just did the brand new update from Skype, and I'm noticing all the buttons are different. And it's hard to notice when you're blind, so I'm swiping on my device and trying to find where I'm at and where you're at. And due to the exteriorization, cataclytic exteriorization phenomenon, the synchronicities occurred, and here we are. Thank you.
Yeah,
but I'm doing well.
You were here, you were gone. You were here, you were gone. But don't feel bad about it. I just told everyone it was February 28th. Where did that come from? I'll tell you what, there's a strange thing happening with time right now. For some people are noticing it, some people aren't, but there's like some anomaly that's going on. A lot of changes, a lot of heavy energetics in the air today. If people are readers of Oracle Report, if you're not, you should be. Subscribe to the Oracle Report, and you can find that at oraclereport.com. You get the updates on the energetics and what's going on, kind of like a road sign. It's a roadmap for the day. But if you did, and most of our listeners do, followed that report today, you saw that some pretty heavy energetics. Pluto went direct today. Thank God. It's been retrograde since April 20th, I believe, of this year. And in Capricorn, so it's been pretty intense. Happens a couple times a year. So, I mean, it's not like it's a very rare thing, but it's a long thing and can have a lot of power to it. Anyway, man, how's it going and what else is happening on the res?
Well, it's irony that we're discussing or not time, because as I'm sitting here waiting and thinking about the show tonight, it's the 28th, and so now it is a month since my father passed or transitioned. And I'm thinking about it, well, what is a month? And then I'm like, listen to the lie that we have been conditioned. We talk about a month, like from September 28th to, or August 28th to September 28th. And it's really not a month, because some months are 28 days, other months are 29 days or 30 days or 31 days. But then when you look at the actuality of a month, mun, the first day of the week, month, and the moon and the phase of the moon, which is a 28-day cycle.
It should, if we went to the 13-month lunar calendar, everything would be fixed. We wouldn't need leap years. We wouldn't need this. We wouldn't need that. The cycles would be correct. Just stick with it. I mean, dude, you know how many people have been killed, murdered, slain because they did not accept the Gregorian calendar? The Europeans all over the world are like, oh, and by the way, the day you say it is, it isn't. It's this day, thus saith the king or the Pope. People who didn't accept that were literally slain under the sword or with gunpowder. True story.
Well, look at in that fake cell of time that we're caught in now, and it is arduous, torturous, and some people can't handle it to the point of suicide. And it's interesting, the whole thing of the 9 to 5 and the visualization of wearing the suit coat and the tie, and the symbology of the tie, not only being what it points to, but also the noose around your neck, and another hour or second hand of the clock, and as that illumination of that prison continues on, we are constantly in this disruption, just for that fact that you stated we're not on the 13 moon calendar. Because that's that beautiful design of the powers that should not be in their disruption of our cycle.
Yeah, trying to interject ego into even the times and the days and the seasons. I mean, literally. I mean, look at this. We're getting ready to come up on the month of October. Now, the reason it's called October is because it was originally Octo, the 8th month. But something happened. How did it become the 10th month? Oh, that's right. Because we had a couple Caesars, July is Julius Caesar. It was a month named after him, and Augustus. And I mean, so you literally had leaders, emperors, Caesars, whatever, kings, and they said, you know what, I want this named after me. I want one of my own. And totally just discombobulated what originally was, a discombobulation anyway with the naming of the months. But so here we have, November was 9, should have been the 9th month, Novo, and Octo, being the 10th and 11th instead of the 8th and 9th. So, I mean, things are...
September.
Yes. 7th.
7, Oc, Nov, Dic, dodecahedron.
Yeah, dodecahedron.
Quiet, don't say it. Pythagoras Society. They'll throw you overboard.
They'll throw you overboard. Oh man, they will throw you overboard and shoot you with buckyballs. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. There's enough craziness in the world and that's going on. Everybody's pretty much aware of all of that. Anyway, dude, what do you think about all of the NFL players taking a knee during the national anthem? What's your thoughts on that?
Can I take a knee on this conversation?
No, you may not, because if you do, it's very unpatriotic, and we will send special teams to the reservation to make sure you do the correct thing.
Oh man. Well, as a half-breed, so I am the original American or the original North American conteneur. Mm-hmm. I think it's all cycles of the psychos where we get caught up in all of these cycles, whether it be a day or a month or when the next TV series comes out or where the next fad comes out or binge watching Netflix, or whatever cycles we get wrapped up, and then they throw in another cycle at us, and it disrupts all the other cycles, wheels within wheels. And if they can continue to throw all these different cycles at us, it keeps that chaos going. And so they keep us in this whole disruption and looking that way and look at all the shiny objects instead of critically looking at our surroundings and getting in sync with that. It's a billion-dollar industry, the NFL and the AFL. And back in the 90s, when I learned about the Bilderbergers group up in Canada, when they had a meeting up there, and 200 of the highest paid athletes from all plethoras of athletes, sports, media, sports, that they were up there for 2 weeks, up behind walls with bodyguards with Uzis, machine guns, patrolling, and it was all secretive, and all of these millionaires and billionaires are shown going in and out, and I'm like, this is all rigged. And so this NFL stuff, I think it's just to add more flame to the fire, the more the division, to keep us on the blue team or the red team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so true. As a matter of fact, George Orwell spoke of that. He, one of the quotes from Orwell, let's see, I think I can remember, about football. Here, let me double check. All right, I pulled it up real quick. I don't want to misquote George Orwell. Football, beer, and above all, gambling filled up the horizon of their minds. To keep them in control was not difficult. George Orwell, 1984. And that was talking about the peoples, the bread and circuses that they were giving them in his fictitious prophetic writing of 1984. And that's exactly what it does. Sports and entertainment and beer, drink, drugs, and television, the television, like you were saying. I've often said that if I were king of the world, if they made me king of the world for one day, like, okay, Phoenix, you're king of the world for one day, you can make any decree you want and it will stay. It will last. But I only had like 2 or 3 of them. My very first one, and I put a lot of thought into this, my very first decree would be that all televisions and all devices like that can display movies would cease to operate forever. And that only way that people could get media would be through radio. Because I tell you what, man, truly, just like in George Orwell in 1984 with the telescreens in every room that had to be on, that's how they control people. And dude, I really do. This is my big time conspiracy self coming out here, that whenever the entire television system of the United States went over to this digital thing, what everyone was forced to do, I think it had to do a lot with a signal wave that they wanted to force through onto people's minds, that they needed that type of carrier to make it efficient and properly working. I really do.
Yeah, control, conditioning, whatever works the best. And I loved it when I did research into MK Ultra. And you learn about the whole thing of not only is it mind control, but it's behavior modification. And it just goes back to the powers that shouldn't be, but we can be breaking free. You've broken free, I've broken free. And apparently we're not free enough that we're on a hit list, or are we?
Oh, we probably are. Who knows, man? I tell you what, I don't even want to go into that, but oh yeah, who knows? I heard, there was a famous, and many of our listeners will recognize his name, Bill Cooper, the Hour of the Time, and he was a radio guy, did shortwave. He was actually declared by uh, former President Bill Clinton to be the most dangerous man in the United States. And he didn't have a big venue. It was all shortwave radio, but he was telling the truth, man. He's actually the one who warned about Osama bin Laden. He said they're going to do a fake attack on the United States and blame it on this man. He called that like 9 months before it happened, and other things. But anyway, one of his big things was about the control of the masses and the mind control. I mean, he was like cutting edge on that.
Well, another example of the catalytic exteriorization phenomenon, William Cooper, in I want to say 1994, the exact same time when I'm in disbelief of having Gulf War illness because I was such a good little American and did my due diligence to follow the American example and join the military and yada yada and be the consumer that I was. I went to a friend's house, and ironically, he's like, "You have to check out this video." And we sat there for 3 hours and watched William Cooper's Sedona, or no, not Sedona. It was his Mystery Babylon, and it was on VHS tape.
Oh yeah, I remember those days when people would like hand out and pass around these VHS tapes with, copies of a copy of a copy. I mean, the Secrets of Iron Mountain. I mean, these crazy tapes, but all the truth that was in them. It was the pamphleteers of the day, and it was done by shortwave radio and VHS. And one thing that Cooper put out, was a narrative that was true. And man, they could not deal with it. The powers that be absolutely lost it on the man to the point that he's no longer alive.
Yeah, and that was absolutely under suspicion that they definitely took him out because research William Cooper and what a loss, And it's crazy. I've been doing some more research on like the last 6 months of Jim Mars and what he's been talking, and it's that same example where seemingly Jim Mars has gotten to that point where he's like, all right, I've seen enough in this world. I'm going to really start sharing some hardcore stuff, and it's crazy. Now, have you, Phoenix? And forgive me, please, all of you. Have pity on me, please, because somebody shared this with me, and I am not a person that usually follows Hollywood unless I'm looking in the symbology of the negativity stuff, But somebody turned me on to this Jim Carrey, comedian. That I have listened to him as a comedian since I do that sometimes. I said doo-doo. Excuse me. But Jim Carrey just recently has been interviewed saying some really prophetic metaphysical stuff, and he even mentioned the word tetrahedron. And it went to the point of where other reporters are coming out and making comments about his mental state. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, Jim Carrey is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, the problem is, well, it's not really a problem, it's a reality. If you talk about the truth and real things and anything outside the accepted norm, they tag you with that conspiracy theorist thing, which is a CIA tag, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theorist, all of that's a tag. But I don't want to belabor this, but I want to say one thing, and this is the reason I brought up William Cooper. And the reason was because you said, are we on some kind of list? William Cooper used to say, there's only one list. He goes, don't worry about being the red list, the yellow list, the green, whatever. He goes, there's only one list. He goes, and that is a list of them. He said, and if you're not on that list, you're dead. You're expendable. He said, there's one list. They just keep the list of the club, and everybody else is fodder for the machine, baby.
Or was it Goyim?
Goyim. Oh, yeah. The, yeah, the protocols of the elders of Zion. That's another document. Oh man, there's been so quiet. What was it? Silent weapons for quiet wars. You ever read that one? Oh my God, that was in his book Behold a Pale Horse, and allegedly that document, if it is true, it is real, came out of an IBM printer that was bought at an auction, a military auction, where they auction off stuff, and it was inside the feed tray when the guy picked the machine up down inside of it. He was going to see if it worked, and that document, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, was in there. Fascinating read. If you've never read it, search that one also. Man, we're bringing up some old school stuff here tonight, man.
Well, the one thing also with William Cooper is where I respected him the most is when he came straight out and said, don't believe a word I say. Treat me like I was a rapist, a burglar, your worst enemy, and do your own research, because my biggest fear is that I've been duped and given information to discredit myself and to lead you down the wrong path. Because he constantly was claiming that he was still trying to know the truth, and he wouldn't say this is the way it is. He would discuss the research, he would bring up the references, and he wouldn't say it's this way or that way, because he was constantly questioning it, because that's the way it is. I keep thinking of that JFK movie with Kevin Costner, with Joe Pesci playing that drug lord guy who had, when he died, had George Bush's phone number in his wallet. I can't remember his name, but Joe Pesci's character, he's like, you don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. It's an enigma wrapped in a riddle, in a conundrum. Up is down and down is up and inside is out. And he does this rant of how just twisted like a plate of spaghetti noodles, the corruption and the plans of the powers that should not be, because they're not going to give us the truth.
Exactly.
As hard as we try and search for it, that's why I like to preference what I say from my research, from my beliefs, and some of the facts I've come across. But I'm still searching for the truth.
Yeah, we all are. And I hope we all are. That's the thing. We have to continually learn and find the truth, our own truth, the reality of that which we go in. And there's so much corruption there. Like you talk about that spaghetti. Just this week, there were problems in Syria, the nation of Syria. A Russian general and two colonels were killed whenever an attack from the rebels or ISIS upon their area it hit their exact location. And the Russians actually put out video and pictures saying that they had identified United States military positions around a certain area, and they gave pictures, and they actually showed these special forces positions in Syria. But the reason they showed them is because they were in ISIS-held areas, and they're totally surrounded by ISIS, and there are no patrols or no guards, and there's no evidence of any attacks of ISIS against the United States Special Forces or the United States Special Forces attacking ISIS. And these attacks that killed the Russian general and the two colonels came from this area. So they put this stuff out, and they're like, this has got to stop. And the Russians are really getting fed up. Now, even though Donald Trump became president, we talked about this on another program, NeSe, I am yet to hear, whenever he said that he was sending additional troops into Afghanistan, I am yet to hear about one single opium poppy field being burned. I can guarantee you, I've talked to people who've come out of Afghanistan. Friends, anybody listening, if you doubt this, do a search on your favorite search engine. Just type this in. United States troops or U.S. Army guarding opium poppy fields in Afghanistan. Or here's a fun one, U.S. military guarding marijuana fields in Afghanistan. And you'll see some of the biggest, bushiest pot plants you've ever seen with guys walking through them, guarding them. I've talked to people who've been there. They don't burn them down. They're told they're there to guard them. And the troops will actually say, well, sir, why don't we just like set these on fire? We have thermite over here. Yeah. Oh, no, we can't do that. There's special teams that do that. But no one has ever seen them destroyed. Because
they only burn them under one circumstance, when the kingpin drug lord there doesn't like to play nice with us. Then we'll go in there and burn everything and let all the other drug lords fight amongst each other, and then whoever reigns, then we deal with him.
Yeah. Sad plate of spaghetti there. But, it's just an example. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I've ranted about that enough. But still, I just want to remind everyone who's been listening. I don't know about you, but I haven't heard anything about any opium poppy fields being burned, even though President Donald J. Trump sent in an additional 4,000 people. A lot of people say, oh, he's going to get his campaign promise. He said he's going to pull everybody out. What's going on? And I actually, being an optimistic person that I am, hoping for the best, told my friends, I believe I said on this program, maybe, just maybe, he's going to go in and we're going to start hearing these announcements of opium poppy fields being eradicated and burned down. And he's actually doing this to go after the funds and the money to the deep state. So maybe that's still true. I'm an eternal optimist. But anyway, we'll run up on a break right here.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Good evening. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. It is the 28th of September. Here with Phoenix. I am Ney Sey. Thank you for being with us tonight. And I think we're going to go old school. I was talking to Phoenix earlier and saying, how about if we discuss where it all came from, how it all started? What's the possibility from the beginning? How do you think of that, Phoenix?
Sounds good, Ney Sey. Exactly what, how far back you want to go and what do you want to talk about?
I'd like to go back like 7 minutes ago at the beginning of the break when my daughter came in and said, hey, taste this bison Alfredo sauce she whipped up for dinner.
Man.
And now it's like, oh, I got to wait for 3 more segments. But it's worth it to be with you all. But, well, I guess what we were taught was that Big Bang Theory when in the Bible, in the beginning, there was nothing, then thought. And then in the science realm, it says the Big Bang, when from nothing, such an explosion occurred that everything was created. And then as time progressed, which is funny to say because I can't imagine a universal God having a watch on. So how would you declare a time? So then this happened and that happened, and then solar systems, and then flat Earths and round Earths and square Earths and tetrahedrons and dodecahedron Earths. But then the Milky Way. But then as the Milky Way happened, Zachariah Stitchin, a a very common name in the truth movement for ancient knowledge. The cuneiform tablets or scrolls estimated 6,500 years ago. Would you agree or to add to that, Phoenix?
Yeah, that's from ancient Sumer, which is actually ancient Iraq. So the nation of Iraq, some of the most historical ancient sites that we know of are in that area: Syria, Iraq, Iran, but particularly in the Iraqi area, ancient Sumer. And they have a lot of ancient history that is there. And it's been speculated that much of the military activity that occurred with the First and Second Gulf War, primarily the second when we went in there, was to recover certain things that were hidden, kind of like Stargate type technology, and let's take, you could probably compare this like the Nazis in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the Nazis were going around the world looking for ancient powerful artifacts and information. And let me clarify to everyone, that's true. They actually did that.
Oh yeah, the Golden Dawn, some call it the Thule or the Thule Society, which were kind of the handlers of Adolf Hitler and the occultism that Hitler was in. But then this goes back with that whole thing of power and the elitist being part of the same bloodline and coming back from these ancient people. And in the holy works or the holy scriptures of yesteryear, they talk of Abraham. And this is where Abraham came from, according to the Bible. But the irony when you talk about Abraham is when you get to the time of Egypt. Because when you talk to the Egyptians and they tried to declare that they're the people that created the pyramids and stuff, but then there's research there that they claim that their knowledge came from ancient Babylon or ancient Sumer.
Yes.
And this is where the whole question of knowledge by the powers that shouldn't be is such a challenge, because there is so much out there that weaves like a thick, thorny shrub, where the stories of yesteryear and ancient time discussed, especially when all of a sudden you reflect that, as we talked earlier about the heavens and the solar system, and then you find out that these deities or these gods of the past also have really strange, similar coincidences with the planets.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, you get back into it and you start bringing up things about Gilgamesh and, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and Enki and all of this. These are stories, and Sitchin tried to tie this all together from the ancient writings of the cuneiform, and that basically talks about, and the Christian Bible talks about this also, if you read it right in the beginning for what it says, the angels, the fallen angels, and you can go back into some of the older books like the Book of Enoch that talk about these, the watchers, those who were above who came down. And basically what they're talking about is an influence of intelligence and physical influence that came from not on Earth. And that influence and intelligence that came from not on Earth, it's not really identified where it is. They call it heaven. They call it above. Some people say that they were based on Mars or in other areas. But basically the fallen ones, you had a group of these, what they call the watchers, who came down and interfaced with human beings. And there's even some, well, if you read the Christian Bible, even the ancient Torah, even the teachings of Islam, God created Adam and Eve. a god who was from not this earth, but the creator of this earth, came and did something to cause life to bring forward on this earth. Now, some could call it seeding of life, which is what it was. And then there was a power play going on. So it sounds like if you look at the big picture, there was an influence from off of this planet that started intelligent life on this planet, and then there developed a huge power play for who was going to be in charge. And so like this battle that was going on, and this is an ongoing thing, and there's a lot of speculation about why, what was the whole purpose of this and everything. But these ancient teachings and this ancient history that's hidden, it's hidden for a reason. They don't want to confuse people. They want to keep people going. You were talking about earlier in the first segment, Ney Sey, about the suits and the ties and the 9 to the 5 and all this. You know, there's a reason for this. It's almost like, dare I say it, like raising cattle. It's almost like raising a flock or cattle or, you know, people to respond a certain way. But there's power play going on here. There's a powerful thing, man.
And to add to that, and this is my conjecture and speculation as I try to find this truth, that even back when the heavens were created, they talk about this collision or this incident that occurred where a planetoid or a celestial body exploded. Thus, we have the asteroid belt, and the sacrifice sun, which is another name for Saturn, gave up its children. And if you think of this planet that exploded and it had moons to it, one of its moons crashed into our Earth and created the ring of fire in the Pacific. And from that occurrence, like a carpet on the hardwood floor, it caused the top layer of the crust of the Earth to shift in such a quickness that it caused a buckle, like a carpet on the hardwood floors, and created the mountain ranges. And so when you look at the maps and you look at the mountain ranges, you can see from how Hawaii would be a center local, slightly off center, but then if you look at the mountain ranges around, you can see the ripples, which would be the mountain ranges, and how they occurred. And this goes back to what I believe was when the planet may have been called Atlantis. But it wasn't a continent itself. It was what the globe or the sphere or Mother Earth, instead of calling it the Earth, the people called it Atlantis, and that we were Atlanteans. And then when this cycle comes around, Nibiru, Wormwood, Blue Kachina, Red Dragon, Revelations, whatever, when it comes around again, and if it comes too close, as we've discussed in the past, to the Earth or Atlantis or Lemire, then a major possibility for a shift can occur, depending on what level.
Yeah, well, there's evidence, as you know, of multiple histories, multiple societies, and they're not constantly, but they have found these, and this is like some of the hidden history stuff, and also the evidence of the giant people, and we have those all across North America. And one interesting thing about the giants, you know, which goes along with the story of the Nephilim, and what that is, the story is that the angels, the watchers, those who were not from this planet, who came down to this planet, had sex with the women of the earth. And what happened, it caused a genetic anomaly. And they were those who came down, they called them the Anunnaki, the watchers, those from other places, and the offspring, the result of the Anunnaki having sexual relations with females on Earth, human beings, their offspring were known as the Nephilim. And the Nephilim were a very strange trait. They were known to have 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes, and to be very large. They were giants. They became giants, and there was this genetic seed that was going around the earth, caused from the interaction of the Anunnaki with the women of the earth, that caused the Nephilim, this strange thing. And these Nephilim occurrences are documented all around the world because it's like they bred and spread everywhere, and not just with the knowledge. They didn't spread with the knowledge. It was like they hadn't planned on this. It just happened. So you ended up with these very large, strange, altered humanoids, if you will, all over the earth. And we had them here in North America. There's all types of evidence of them. And history is rife with the discovery of these giants of old.
Well, if you want to, then you get into the semantics of what they could be. For lack of a better description, supernatural beings. Humanoids, that you could easily denote as the gods of ancient Greek or the gods of ancient Roman, because they, in their legends, myths, histories, it always seems to come from a shred of truth.
Well, let me interject this. Centaurs. You're talking about the ancient Greek myths, and they had these mythological creatures, and one in particular, like Pan, or who was a centaur, which is half man, half horse. And if you had the ability of the Anunnaki to breed with women and create these strange species of Nephilim, what are the possibilities that these Anunnaki did not also have sex with animals, horses, and other creatures, and create these strange beings like a centaur? Perhaps the legends of Pan and all of that aren't really just a fantasy or mythology. Perhaps these are historical reports that have been passed down through story of creatures that actually were. And there is some speculation that was the reason for the flood, because what happened, these warring parties, the one side, God who saw all this, it was just out of control. These crazy creatures running all around the earth. They were just just destroying one another, and just bizarreness. And that's why the flood theory came forward, because it says, to wipe the earth clean of this, evil that's come upon it. I don't know. It's just speculation, but kind of fits a story.
Well, absolutely. Or you can add into it that, we're talking about the cuneiform tablets or the cuneiform history 6,500 years ago, but the claim of the earth being 4.2 billion years old, that's minuscule in comparison to the age of the earth. So there could have been civilizations where these mythological creatures actually did exist, and then it goes back to where we were talking about, to laugh at the thought of a universal God with a watch, where we silly humans get trapped with that tick-tock, tick-tock. Mm-hmm. So then, time progresses, and then we go through ancient Babylon, ancient Sumer, and ironically, not a lot of the remnants of stories of North America or South America have been shared wholly or openly, without having to do your due diligence. In the American society, in the his story, it's mainly the history of Europe. So then we stay in Europe. So we got Egypt, and then from Egypt we get to Greece, and then Greece we get to Rome, and then from Rome we get to we get into the countries, the kingdoms, and then I would have to give it to United Kingdom as far as as we're tracing power going, but there was some constant rivalry with the royalty of Europe gaining power with the church, because when the church was established, that's really where some major power occurred. And then wherever the Pope resided after that was where the power kind of continued. And then good old America, USA. What should we talk about that creation? What's your thoughts on it? On the European thought that the Earth was flat, and if you went sailing beyond, you would fall over. And it was a wonderful method of keeping people there on Europe instead of trying to find North and South America. But lo and behold, Christopher Columbus. Do you have anything to add on Columbus? Have you spent any time researching that, gentlemen?
It's a saying about him a lot in the military. 1409 to Moose Hill, the oceans. Anyway, better not go down that road. But yeah, that is an interesting thought that, the spreading of that, what we know now to be a myth of the flat earth, and boy, we just struck some nerves there with people. But I don't think that was so much of a conspiracy of the nations or the church. It was a belief system. Even though they could have received evidence otherwise, human beings are human beings. And even back then, like they do now, any great truth that comes out, they suppress it. They don't want people to know because it kind of shakes their authority and the entire belief system of everything. So I don't know about them perpetrating that story just for that reason. But the fact that Columbus was allowed to sail away, they probably thought he would never come back. They probably thought he would never return. And, by his discoveries, and they were late. I mean, there's evidence here in North America of the Vikings landing. They discovered a Viking boat in Michigan somewhere, off of one of the Great Lakes. And it was in a farm field or something buried. There's evidence, and there's runic writings in central parts of the United States that totally blow the Columbus theory off the map, literally.
Well, even to go back with the references of the Knights Templar in 1307 when they ran, before they were all rounded up, that the speculation, and there's strong evidence, I believe, that most of the pirates, let me reverse that, most of the Knights Templar became the pirates of the oceans, because it was known that only 2/3 of their fleet showed up between Scotland and England.
Hey, dude, have you ever heard of well, I know you have, the legend of Oak Island?
Oh, yes.
Did you dig this, man? I don't know if you heard this. I just heard this the other day. There's a rumor going around, and it's not like out there, but this is like from some local people in the area. They are saying that those two brothers who are doing the thing for like the Discovery Channel or History Channel, whichever one it is, the mystery of Oak Island, they've been digging and digging. Dude, there's a rumor that something major has been found there, and they are secretly not so much secretly, because you can see the stuff. That's why I've heard about this. Heavy equipment. They were ready to pack it in, but all of a sudden, millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment has shown up there, because the rumor is they found something major that's proof of the Knights Templar burying something major there. I'm talking huge discovery. And
absolutely, and this goes to the validation where I have conjectured that the founding fathers in North America were pirateers.
Of course they're pirates.
The gentlemen of Boston was the largest seaport in the colonist. And that was the whole thing of the king getting so mad because of the whole taxation with representation the American settlers were like, fine, we're not going to buy your stuff, king. We'll buy it from the pirateers. And they were buying it from the pirateers, and so the king wasn't getting any taxes. And that's why he sent his Royal Navy to Boston to try to squelch all of the dealings of Samuel Jackson. And I do believe that John Hancock is William Tisch, Blackbeard.
Really interesting. You know, I live in an area here in the northeastern United States that one of the rivers, Blackbeard, actually sailed up. And there is an island in the Delaware River that's called Treasure Island. And people for years have looked for treasure there because they knew that Blackbeard at one point sailed up the Delaware River. And that's an interesting story.
Blackbeard, from my research, because I love pirates, you know, being in the Navy, you know, I was in the Navy when I was a kid, Treasure Island, you know, but anyway, Blackbeard was, I would say, maybe 5 or 6 different people that when the pirate Blackbeard, the original pirate, got so rich, he was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go retire in the new colonies. And so then he would get a whole brand new crew, and the first mate and Blackbeard would trade position, and then they would address each other differently. And then all of a sudden the first mate is like, I'm retiring, and they give him a big party, but it was actually Blackbeard would retire. And then they would
Kinda
continue
like
this.
Red Pirate Roberts of Princess Bride.
Ding-a-ding-a-ding, we have us a winner. Exactly how the media just shoves it in your face of how the reality of it is. You know, and so that's where my belief of the John Hancock, because through my research that, you know, these kings and stuff, they change their names before they become, you know, when they become a king, they take on a new name because they're anointed by God. And so they change their name. And
the popes do the same thing.
Yes. And the term Hancock was a vulgarity where it meant you had your hand as a man. You stood around doing nothing. You were worthless. You stood around with your hand on your privates. And so when they wrote in huge letters on the Declaration of Independence, John Hancock, I think they were giving a big finger to the king.
Perhaps they were talking about a man who raises chickens.
Yeah,
John
right.
had his hand on a chicken.
Right. But, you know, and this goes into this whole Boston. So then now we have the colonist, and we got America, and then we got the so-called separation with the War of, you know, Independence, but the banks stayed the same. We separated ties and created a new country on the deaths of natives. But that new country was created and the banks stayed in power.
True. But you know what, though? Don't forget the French and Indian Wars. There was a division of the Native American peoples, you know, some who backed the French, some who backed the English, and they battled together with both sides. So,
well, the initial, and this is the challenge about the past of North America. And come back and we'll talk more about it.
Yep, going up on a break. Don't go away.
Truth Frequency Radio. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones, obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. I am your host, Phoenix, and welcome to tonight's broadcast.
And welcome back to the second hour of Phoenix Rising Radio this evening, right here on Truth Frequency Radio, where truth is premier. So important. Are you a supporter of the truth? I hope you are. If you're not, go over to truthfrequencyradio.com and click on the listener page for Phoenix Rising Radio and find out how you can become a supporter. So you can have access to high definition downloads to all the different programs, all the great hosts, all the great stuff that you hear right here on Truth Frequency Radio. You can do this. You can also listen to us on, as you are, many of us, iHeartRadio right now, LinkedIn, listen in, all different aspects and ways that you can listen in. Anyway, we're talking tonight about alternative history and some of the things that a lot of hosts don't talk about. You know, a lot of people get caught up in current events, and some people will say, like Phoenix and Ney Sey, why are you guys even talking about this stuff? Don't you know the NFL's down on one knee? Don't you know that this is happening? Don't you know Donald Trump this? And don't you know blah, 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 Hillary this? You know, the reason we're talking about this, and the reason this is important to remind you to disconnect from the noise that you're tied up in and realize there's something bigger going on here. There's a bigger picture going on, and everything that you may be so distressed about right now. Oh my God, the NFL. Oh my God, Brexit. Oh my God, this, that, or the other. I don't care what nation you're listening to us from. There's something you're involved in that will yank your chain. This program is a reminder to you that there's something bigger out there. Yeah, we have esoteric guests on at times talking about the big picture of things and of a more esoteric nature. But this is kind of a factual, historical reminder to you that there's something bigger going on. And there's someone, I don't care what government you are under, if it's United States government with the Trump administration or the Canadian government or South American governments or wherever you're at and whatever government's over you, there is somebody who's a little more powerful than all of them. And there's a battle going on. This battle has been ongoing for millennia, and we will, I truly do believe, in our lifetime, see a return of some of this stuff. You know, before we went to break here, Ney Sey was talking about Zecharia Sitchin, and I have in my hand here Genesis Revisited, one of his many books, and I'm a fan of Sitchin. I've read many of his books, and I just cut this open page, chapter 11 of Space Base on Mars. Yeah, Sitchin's stuff is well worth a read. He talks about all of this, and he's got quite a few books, and I have a few of them myself here, but this is an alternative view to what you've been taught. And that's what we're trying to share tonight. That's what Ney Sey and myself are bringing forward to you, is a reminder that there's something bigger going on. And I think this is helpful. I think it's helpful for our listeners, Ney Sey, because people can kind of disconnect from these close-in energetics that have them going. You know what I'm saying? They're so upset over these really, really small things. And when I say small things, I'm talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about any leader in any country, Vladimir Putin, you name it, Xi of China. These are small things. These men and women who run around like Angela Merkel and Putin and Obama and Trump and Hillary and you name it, just throw them out there. they are minuscule. They are nothings. And we have to realize that the power of the great Oz behind the curtain is just bull.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And as we're discussing about this, his story of where there are leaders that have risen and fallen and risen and fallen and rubbed elbows with each other. And they've thrown each other to the wolves, and they've huddled close to each other, and they've done this and the other thing, and they've done as heinous as you can think, because around 1500, all of a sudden it's the century of the empires, and everybody started. Well, no, excuse me, take me back. 17. So we get the independence, 1776. By early 1800s, the empire grabs start, and it started with the United Kingdom, and they started snatching up. I think at one point they snatched up over 60% of the world under the flag. They have a flag. All because of a flag. They were able to stick a flag in the ground, and we were all like, oh, dang it, why didn't we have that flag? Or our own flag.
The old saying, and they may still say it, the sun never set the British Empire. It's because they had grabbed land globally.
Right, and they, Spain, when Spain first, major power, to go back a little bit further with Columbus, and Spain got all of this gold out of South America and got so big for their britches, and then all of a sudden realized their gold was all gone. And they lost all their assets, and then Spain started crumbling, and then all of their ties were lost, and Britain gobbled it up. And then America was in a close second, but China had its diligence and stuff, and then the Malaysian Islands, and then we got Alaska, and then all of a sudden those 51st states, or those provinces, and Cuba. That's Cuba.
How about? Yeah, I'm laughing now. I'm just talking about all this. I'm not making light of this. The disaster, the humanitarian disaster that's happening in Puerto Rico right now. Do you not find it odd that it's like nobody's really talking about it? We have an entire area where they're U.S. citizens, 3.7 million people, without power. It's a great humanitarian disaster, and it's like nobody's really talking about it, man.
Yeah, but I wonder about that little area there in Puerto Rico that houses all of that secret information for the New York Stock Exchange, how that facility is still going.
I'm sure it's going well. Here's the plan, dude. Here's the thing, and I want to let everyone know what's going on with Puerto Rico. I can do this pretty quick. And I heard this from my friend out in California, who's a really smart guy. He's a financial guy. He does like gold and housing and all these different things. But he said, here's the deal. He said, Puerto Rico is bankrupt. They went bankrupt. Nobody really talked about it. Like, what are we going to do about Puerto Rico? Nobody did anything. Next thing you know, they are hit with this massive hurricane that is very bizarre, because normally hurricanes only hit one side of the island because of the mountains, and then it's like broken up. So it's never really that severe. But this was an anomaly that went totally horizontally over the mountain, over the nation, did not even break up. It weakened just a little bit, but devastated all of Puerto Rico. And the result is you have all of these millions of homes and businesses there that have mortgages, a lot of them through Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, excuse me. And these are government back mortgages, and nobody can pay their mortgages. Of all those millions of houses that have been destroyed there, do you think people are like, oh my God, oh, I'm not going to go get water today or look for food because I got to go pay my mortgage? No, they're not doing that. Number one, they can't. And the insurance isn't going to cover it. So what's going to happen is the banks are going to foreclose on those millions of properties, and those millions of properties are going to be absorbed in to basically the U.S. coffers, and is going to take away some of that debt by taking all this property. And basically these organizations and these major banks are going to foreclose on the entire island because they can't make their mortgages, and it's going to be a fire sale, dude. They basically have taken over all the real estate. They haven't done it yet, but this is the process, and that's what they're going to do with a bankrupt nation of Puerto Rico.
And thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for visiting Puerto Rico, which once was a country, but now is the lap of luxury for the Hollywood elitists. Come see the billionaires' homes along Puerto Rico. Yeah,
exactly. And what they have to do to fulfill this, they have to make it so uncomfortable, so undesirable, so disastrous that all the people in Puerto Rico who can't pay their mortgages, who have been totally wiped out, will just leave.
This is the microcosm of the macrocosm. This is what they've done to little countries and large countries, where whether it's from weather to finances to business to governments, the rise and the collapse, Read books like, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and read the history of the CIA or the company. And this is the continuation of the powers that should not be, and if you look at, as we were talking about, the empire period, and then that settled down, and then we get into the 1900s and the Native Americans, and you've heard me talk so much about the Native Americans, and the devastation of that, but then all of a sudden it's the industrial boom in World War I, where all of a sudden the New World Order, the talk is more out there. We forgot Adam Weishaupt. We should always bring up Adam Weishaupt.
Okay.
With the Illuminati. As a doctor, I think he was a doctor or a professor at college. And Adam Weishaupt. All of a sudden, let's create a good old boys group, the Bavarian Illuminati, or the Illumined Ones. And they ran along parallel with the Masonic lodges and the church, and they were about enlightening man, parallel growth of spirituality and science. But then at some point, something went awry, and they wanted power. And then they started infiltrating the Masonic lodges. And then in 1776, around with the creation of the United States, Jacobism, Washington on his deathbed talked about the Masonic Lodge or the Templars or the Illuminati, one of the same, and how they had influence on the creation of the United States, as they do continue today. As the Skull and Bones, the Union, the Raise the Black, the Skull and Bones, the Black Flag, the CIA and their connections with the Skull and Bones and the Brotherhood and the Illuminati and the elitists, the 1%, and then all of a sudden, if it wasn't revealed to you at any point of the shows that we've done together or the shows that Phoenix has done before me, that it should have been relevant when in the election, when our presidential candidates were George Jr. Bush and John Kerry, and it was brought before your eyes live on television that both politicians were membership of the Skull and Bones. One was Democratic, one was Republican. Did you ever see that video about the college student that got tased during the John Kerry question and answer thing?
Yeah.
And he brought up his last question he gave to John Kerry was, "Isn't it true, John Kerry, that you are a membership of the Skull and Bones along with George Bush?" And then they grabbed him and tased him.
Do you remember what they did to defer from? Wasn't he the "Don't tase me, bro" thing? Don't
Yes.
tase me, bro. And what they did was they mocked that, and they took the attention from his question to "Don't tase me, bro," and it was like on Fox News and all, and they made it a meme before memes were meme. "Don't tase me, bro," and it was like a joke, and that way people, wouldn't even question what or even think about what he was asking and what he was saying.
Yeah, so if you didn't wake up at that point, people, where as Phoenix brought up about Hillary and Trump and governments and politicians, and if you think really that, and I would love to believe and have faith that Donald Trump actually got into this position of power on a fluke. But when you look at Tao Tzu and the Art of War, when the opposition are actually friends and they say, "Hey, let's act like we're oppositions because we have enough money, we can go meet on the top of a mountain somewhere and have a party together, and then go back in the public eye and act like we hate each other," Hillary and Trump, because if you look in the history of how much they were buddies, and so that's how it's easy for me to disattach from all of this manipulation, especially when you have children, and especially when a month ago, if it is a month ago, I held my father's hand. And as it got colder and colder, so here we are at this moment, and who's in charge? You brought up William Cooper earlier, and you can find audio clips of William Cooper where he will go through and he will talk about those that are in charge are the Jesuits, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the Council of Foreign Affairs, and more and more and more. And he says, I can go on and on and on of these secret lodges, these brotherhoods, these coffee table meetings where Bill and Bob, say, "Hey, if you make your widgets this expensive, I'll make my gadgets this expensive," to where it helps each other because it's all business. It's all about the finance. It's all about the money. And if there's one product that the oldest corporation in America is dealing with, that's you and I, people. There's a reason why the Department of Commerce runs the United States Census.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that is so true. All of that's true. And the question that you put forward, how do we escape this? What do we do about this? And that's why we're talking about this tonight, the alternative history, the way things really are. There is a solution to this, people. There really is. And you independently have to not fall for their fear, because they manipulate you by fear, making you fearful of certain outcomes. Oh, if you don't perform this way or do this, you will be like this. And through the media, they try to paint an image of the way you should be, and they prompt you to be that way. If you are like this, people love you. If you are like this and you do this, you're sexy. If you do this or act like this, your family will love you. Your children will think you're great. If you do this or act like this, fill in the blank. It's a mind control thing. So the best thing I can say is disconnect from all that. But I have a theory, and I've put this forward before. I've said this. People who've listened to me for a long time know this, have heard me say it. There is no political movement. There is no military force. There is nothing that human beings can put forward to undo the situation we're in right now. Yes, everybody talks about going against the powers that be. Everyone talks about, drain the swamp. Not going to happen, baby. Not going to happen. This is too big. It's too powerful. But I'm not saying don't be hopeful, because I am greatly hopeful that something is going to happen. But what I have always said, and I truly believe, this is all going to change. This leveling is going to happen at a higher level by means almost supernatural. And if you want to get into it even more, delve in to Zechariah Sitchin, because I truly believe those who came here before, they are coming back. And when they come back, they're going to be kicking butts and taking names. Really believe it.
And I absolutely agree with you, because as you stated earlier, there's always a bigger dog, a bigger fish. There's always something, a power bigger than you. And when you expect company, and you've heard me say this before, people, when you expect company, you always do something to welcome them. Some people will vacuum and dust and clean and sweep and make things presentable and ready for your company to come. So maybe we should kind of think a little bit like that and get things ready for these powers that come, so that we are an example of our full potential of what we are designed to be as humane beings. And I'll tell you what, if you stick around after the break, Phoenix has all the answers.
Yeah, right. I have all the answers. Yeah. Don't put that on sale. Oh my God, we'll run out of merchandise really fast. I wish we search for the answers. We look for the answers. And, we're constantly hoping for someone to save us. Speaking of, I had been talking, and we did a program on this, about the Revelation 12 sign in the sky. And I have been telling everyone that, I truly believe that we have a great delusion going on within the Christian church, and that great delusion or lie is the pre-tribulation rapture. And there were a lot of people who just a week ago thought literally that they would not be on this earth right now. And my speculation is that delusion, this great lie of the pre-tribulation rapture that was put forward by man, is nowhere found in the Christian writings, would cause what's called the great falling away. And there's no proof to this. There's no stats out there, but I personally believe, and there may even be people listening to me right now who got really discouraged by that whole thing and may question everything. And yes, we hope for change. People put so much faith into that we will be saved from all of this creation that like NeSe says, the powers that should not be. These individuals who've risen to power, and they think they can control everyone. I mean, when you look at people like Hillary Clinton or other leaders, I mean, just pick your own poison on that. And you look at these people with all of their known flaws, I mean, documented flaws, illegal activities, crimes, whatever, lies, just blatant lies. And these people have risen to such a point that they think they should be in control of you and me. And when I say you and me, if you're listening from another nation right now, recorded or live, we're talking about you too, because you know how the United States rolls. The United States wants to rule the world, but these days are over. This is changing, and we're going through some geopolitical changes right now where the United States isn't going to be the top dog anymore. Financially, geopolitically, all that.
Well, audience, Phoenix is just being humble, and right after this short break, he will come back and tell you all the answers. So don't let him fool you. This man is a genius.
Huh, you're funny. That NeSe Sey is practicing for his stand-up comedy thing at the Res this Saturday. Don't miss it. Be there. First 5 people through the door get official NeSe Sey t-shirts.
Well, I'll give everybody the answer then when we come back.
Okay.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Don't stop unless it's to smell the roses. But remember, all beautiful roses are grown from excrement. And if the excrement comes out, may it only be out at the end and not out of the mouth of babes comes the truth. And may I be sharing the truth with you here tonight on the Phoenix Rising Show, where we're not spreading manure, but we're trying to grow like beautiful. I don't even want to use roses because all of a sudden I think of the Illuminati and their roses fetish. How about a sunflower? There's the golden mean spiral. But
cool.
Speaking of sunflowers and a beautiful flower, we have Phoenix Rising, the beautiful flower of the East Coast.
Hello, I'm the beautiful flower, Phoenix. What the heck? You know what? A funny thing. We actually drove by yesterday a beautiful field of sunflowers where we live. They grow sunflowers, for different things, animal feed and for people. And it's not a big crop. The big crops are soybeans and corn and of course dairy cattle and cattle. But it's not uncommon to pass a field, many acres of sunflowers. And what a beautiful thing, man, to see. And the cool thing about it is they all turn towards the light. And they move throughout the day. They actually move. These are like plants that are very light sensitive. That's why they call them sunflowers, because they will move themselves, the pod, towards the sun and move throughout the day. And it's really interesting to watch them all. They just seek the light. And all of us are sunflowers. You said I'm a beautiful flower. You're all you're a beautiful flower. All of our listeners are beautiful flowers because we are that life. We are that spark of light in our hearts. And that spark of light, that beautiful flower, seeks the sun, seeks the truth, and will turn towards the truth, ever so subtle. But I tell you what, it's so poetic to see it in action in a field of sunflowers. And then what they end up doing is, in unison, they get to the point, it's like, okay, that's it. We have done it all. And they all turn brown at the same time and kind of bow their heads. And they are all facing, you will see these sunflowers, they're all facing the west. Is that what happened? They will all turn. The brown ones, when you see them brown, they're all facing the west. And they are all facing, you will see these sunflowers, they're all facing the west. Is that what happened? They will all turn. The brown ones, when you see them brown, they're all facing towards the west and with their pods down. And it's like the very last sunset. So they they all witness it together, and they like almost on unison all give up the ghost. It's like, okay, now we're going to see, you know.
Have you ever drove through Kansas? Excuse me.
You know what? I don't think I've ever been in Kansas my entire life, ever.
I think it's like almost an 8-hour drive across the whole state of Kansas. And so I remember one time in one of my road trips to California that going through Kansas and fields after fields of sunflowers and witnessing what you're talking about. Because as you stated, when the sun sets in the west and the head of the flower droops down, it'll droop down and then it gradually swings to the south. And then when the sun rises in the east, it'll turn and raise its head to the heavenly sun and follow the heavenly sun that shines down upon it. But yeah, it is a phenomenon in itself to witness. But yeah.
And the thing about it is that it's a good example of the truth. All of us, you know, we're all beings. We're all human beings. We have that flower of life within us. You know, we're talking about old history and all of that. That goes back to even the flower of life that was discovered in ancient Egypt. And the flower of life, many people listening to me realize what I'm talking about. This almost like it's a design, a glyph, and it's very intricate. And this was found on ancient temples in Egypt that no one can explain how they got there. It almost looks like it was burned in with a laser, the flower of life.
I think on 7 continents, the flower of life has been found.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. If
that
my
would
memory correct me. And that is why I, you know, the rose in itself does have the Fibonacci sequence or the golden mean spiral, as does the intricate positioning of the seeds on a sunflower. And this gets into what, you know, some people call sacred geometry. And going back to William Cooper, it goes into the mystery Babylon schools, you know, where there is these secret societies, these brotherhoods, these lodge, these universities of knowledge, and knowledge is power. And as I said before the break, I will give you the answer because I know everything. However,
really,
I have terrible recall.
We all do. And what a great truth that you just spoke. We all know everything. It's within us. It's in our being. The spark. If you're listening to me right now, you hear this word, or this word, or this word. You have this. It's in you. You have life. You have the spark of life. You have the flower of life. You are a beautiful flower, just like I, just like Ney Sey. You're all beautiful flowers, no matter, you know. And some people that probably like laugh, like, really, I'm a beautiful flower, you know. Especially guys like, oh, I'm all like Mr. Manly Man. I'm not a beautiful. Yeah, you are. You're a beautiful flower. We're all beautiful beings. We all have light that shines in us, and we all seek out the source of the light, which is the truth, this power, this clarity. And we, even if we don't realize it, we desire this and we seek toward it. That's why the alternative media has such a following right now. That's why Truth Frequency Radio is doing so well right now, is because people are looking for that light, because they know that what the mainstream media is doing is not true. It's a false light. It's artificial. It's artificial.
Absolutely. And like being that, let's make it concise and add cohesion to it and make that light a laser so we can all hit the point or make the point or put your eye on the bullseye. because as we make our target, that symbol of the Almighty Universal God in its oldest known was that circle. And in that circle was that center dot, which some people would call it an eye or an all-seeing eye, but the oldest known recorded name was Og. And I think we have discussed this before. From Og, we've gotten oogle or ugly to ogle or to Google, googly eyes, the all-seeing eye. And then this gets into ancient Babylonians and ancient Sumerians. And then we come to the iconography of the Target stores, and the black hole sun, where we have our pupil, the black hole that takes in the sun, where the sun is the illumination of field. And through our eyeball, we take our optical nerve and we bring in those fields, that visual spectrum, and we decipher it and codex it, and then we turn it into our own special ones and zeros in the computer of the brain, and then we have that visual spectrum, and so that in itself, its process of looking at something and seeing what I see is universe, the miracle. And if we would all take our eyes and see each other as the miracle, we would be on point. We would hit the bullseye. We would be on target. Because if we sat in a lotus position, straight in a lotus position, with our legs in a triangle and our arms in a triangle to our knee, and we sit up with our spine forward, our lower body makes a pyramid. And then we have our neck, which is an extension of the circle of the eye in the pyramid. And then in the center of our eye, we have the pineal gland, which like itself is an eyeball that has cones and rods and can rotate and see. Some people claim on the metaphysical, on the other side. So as we break on through the other side and we find out what our truth is, may you all hit the bullseye, and your reward will be that beautiful flower or bouquet.
All true. And we are not bound by everything you're seeing right now. All these nonsensical things that you're being bombarded with in the media, no matter what nation you're in, you have your own version of this. I would have to say probably the United States. Well, maybe not. Germany and some of the European nations are kind of off the hook with all this right now, with what they've done by destroying their nation and bringing in radicalism and all of that. They may be leading the way. The U.S. is close second. Don't fall for this nonsense. Don't fall into this, and it's going to pick up. Dude, do you realize that we are coming up on an astrological thing that's coming probably like December of this year, and it's going to lead us into a time that we haven't seen since like the 1200s. And the 1200s are when the Dark Ages occurred, and the Knights Templar were in power, and there's going to be a lot of power play here. And this is why it's so important for people to learn how to break away from this nonsense and the media stuff. You've got to learn through meditation, like Ney Sey was saying, prayer, whatever way. You've got to find your own truth. You have got to find that happy place. You must. And I would like to say one thing to everyone. The best place to be when everything is not good is where everyone else isn't. Do not latch on to some idea that someone's spouting and get in a group of people slamming your fist to the air. We demand this, rah, 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 no matter what it is, because it's their, when I say their, the powers that the few who control the many, their influence upon human beings to divide this nation, to divide this world, not just this nation. By even saying nation, I'm wrong in that. By dividing humanity, okay? That's what this whole, and let's go full circle here. We talked right at the beginning of this program about taking a knee during the national anthem. What this is all about is dividing people. It's not about a flag. It's not about a black and white. It really isn't. They're making it that. They want people to be divided because people have been embedded with different ideas of how they perceive things to be real, and they have done this very effectively with the Patriot movement, with the Trump, the people who support Trump, and with the people who are anti-Trump and all of this, the Antifa people. Those are the extremes of all of this, and they have created these energetics, and they've done it specifically to put them together, almost like a mad scientist, like, ha, 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 if I add this to this, boom, that's what will happen. And they've created this. They've created this ultra patriotism. They've created this ultra anti-patriotism, if you will. And they are trying to interject it and put it in contact with one another. So don't fall for this. Yeah, I believe in the United States, what the higher values of it, the goodness of it. Our Constitution, if you listen to the words of the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem and all these different things, it's all about unity. One nation under God. One nation. Indivisible. That means we can't be divided. For liberty and justice for who? For all. Not for whites, not for blacks, not for Latinos, not for any specific person, for all. Liberty and justice for all, even people on the res, because they realize, that all people, now is that perfect? No, because under that very Constitution, under those very words, people have been oppressed. We've talked about it on this very program. We've talked about it many times. We talked about it this evening, all the deception and the craziness going on. But what I'm trying to say is do not fall for their tricks and their division. This, I'm against you, you're against me. You're this color, I'm not that color. You believe this, I don't believe that. Don't go for it. We're all together. And that's what they're so afraid of, is that we will realize through knowledge, prayer, and meditation that we're all human beings on this earth. We're all sunflowers in the same field, baby. We're all sunflowers, and we're all seeking the truth. And they're doing everything they can to false light, false dark, false everything to confuse the entire field because they don't want us in unity.
And if you guys really think the NFL team leaders and the boards and stuff really care that you burn your $80, $120 jerseys, because then you're going to have to go and buy a new one. They're fine with you guys burning your official jerseys because that's just. And that's part of the whole, not only is this making more money for the NFL, it's doing exactly what you're saying, doing that whole divide and conquer, but I think if there is an answer, there's only two choices you can make, I believe, Phoenix. And if there's going to be a dichotomy, that dichotomy, I'm going to call it fear and love. And out of that fear and love, there's only two choices. Your number one choice should be love. Your number two choice should be neutrality. That's it. That's your only two choices. You should not choose, and I'm sorry if I'm shooting on you because I don't care to shoot on anybody, but it is best that you do not choose fear. That you choose love or you choose neutrality and do nothing. However, if you choose neutrality, do not be surprised if you get ran over from the oscillation of the two dichotomies of fear and love, because they swing back and forth like a pendulum. And the pit in the pendulum, if you're just sitting there doing nothing, you have a better chance of being ran over it and all. But make a choice, please. Make a choice to be. Be something. Don't get wrapped up in who you are at this moment, because this moment's gone. There goes another one and another one. That moment's gone. So worry about who you're going to become and strive to be that.
Agree 100%. Yeah, disconnect from all that and work on yourself, the warrior within you, that you would be the best that you can be for yourself and for those around you. And because that's what they don't want you to do. They don't want you to concentrate on yourself, on your heart, on your health, on your peace. They want you disrupted, because when you're disrupted, you're distracted, and you're easily controlled. This is about control. Now, again, this is all going to end. There's going to be something's going to happen, and it's coming. I know it's coming. It's part of the leveling, and all of this is going to change. And there will be justice. There will be justice, because this is the nature of the universe. And this will go back a long way. You know, Ney Sey, Native American, the injustices that happened to the Native Americans, African Americans, the injustices that happened to them, white Americans, the injustices that happened to them through the economic and banking system. I'll tell you, some of the biggest slavery that this nation has seen wasn't in the plantations of the South. It was in the coal mines and the factories of the North. The Irish and other immigrants who came in, they were baited. They handed out pamphlets all over Europe and in Ireland and in England. Oh, come to the United States. The streets are paved with gold. And they had people just waiting to get them. They would sell off anything they could to get here. And, man, they went into slavery. They were digging coal out of mines. They were working in, as children, 10, 12 years old, working in fabric mills, very dangerous. Economic slavery. A lot of people, like slavery, they equate slavery with African Americans, whips and cotton fields. That's not the only slavery we've seen, people, and it's still going on. My voice is reverberating off the ears of slaves right now. Would you agree, Ney Sey?
I think if you want to find a slave, I would just simply go to the closest mirror. And so that's a yes, that we are the slaves. And we're all guilty. We are all guilty, and we deserve the shackles that we put upon ourselves, because as I've stated before, when we go and buy things and we go and we consume things, especially those things that we want, not the things that we need, because we need them, but when we buy our things we want, we are paying taxes, state and federal, that are making bombs that are being dropped on innocent lives. So as you get on your knees and pray for forgiveness, know that I forgive you, because I am just as guilty as you are. And in this universe, I want to save universe and myself by making the choice to be love and to strive for that perfection that the universal God made me as. And so when you're all ready to hit the highway and meet me in Washington, D.C., I'm ready when you are.
Dude, how do you think that would work out? Could we actually do it?
Well, I'm willing to try. Just point me in the right direction. All it takes is me pushing a little joystick on my controller and change my batteries.
Oh, man, I don't know. I think this isn't going to be a people movement. This is individually the most powerful strength that we have. Again, envision the field of sunflowers. What if a sunflower couldn't droop its head at sunset and turn to the south and prepare to rise its sunflower pod in the east? What if something was interfering with that? That would disrupt the entire production of sunflower seeds, the entire field. It's whenever we individually are disrupted through fear, through distraction, through circuses, that's when we can't work in unity. So I think the best thing we can all do as human beings is look towards the light, focus on the truth, and be the best that we can be for ourselves and for those around us. We're facing some hard times. We're facing some perilous times that may become even more so. The archonic energies, the demonic energies are doing everything they can to stay in power. But guess what? I read the end of the book. I jumped to the end. I cheated. I read the end. They lose. They lose. They lose big time, and we win. And just hold on to that truth that that we win. NeSe, we're out of time, brother. What do you want to say to everyone before you roll?
I want to read that book. But
you want to read?
Yeah, I want to read more books. I'm still reading more books. But yeah, keep educating yourself. Knowledge, the truth will set you free. And hopefully you're free with your time next week to come and listen to us. I think I'm on next week both days, Tuesday and Thursday.
You got it.
I believe.
That's it. We're out of time, people. Find someone you love. Tell them that you love them. And turn towards the light and say no to fear. So important. That's it. Thanks, brother, for joining me tonight. I'll see you next week.
Toodles.
That's it. And I'm out here. Good night, and God bless everyone. Be strong, be brave, be the best you can be.